CR?
Yes.
There you go. Perfect. Okay. Quorum being present. Oh, I'm going to start recording the meeting now. Apologies. So we're recording the meeting now. Again, if you want to unmute, if you're on a phone, it's *6. If not, click on the little microphone there, and I guess that unmutes you or mute you. So quorum being present, I will call the meeting of the Freetown Conservation Commission to order. Let the minutes and record reflect that we do have a quorum. Before we get started, I must read the governor's order. So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 18, and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people who may gather in one place, this meeting of the Freetown Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public can be found on the Town of Freetown website, freetownma.gov. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post to the Town of Freetown's website or YouTube channel an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Okay. Before we get started, we do have some new public hearings tonight, and so we'll be opening those up. So there may be folks here from the general public.
How do I turn my volume up?
Should we get there? One of those symbols down the bottom.
You folks are
Well, except for
unmuted.
turning up the volume.
Is that the volume?
Well, that I can't help you with.
All right. Okay, I think we're figuring that out too. All right. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. So just let me briefly go over. This is going to be the rules for our public hearings tonight. Typically, we will open the public hearing. We'll allow the applicant to make their presentation. After that, we will open it up to questions and/or comments. All questions and comments should be directed through the chair, but answered by the applicant. I ask folks not to be repetitive, but if you did not get a full or complete answer, certainly ask the question again. Just politely raise your hand on the screen or just say, excuse me, at any point in time and get my attention, and you'll be called on for your question or comment. So that being said, another point, 41 Water Street, still in pending peer review and engineering review. So we will not be doing any work with 41 Water Street tonight. So if there were any interested parties in that are here, I don't hear any. Okay. Then that being said, I will go ahead and call the public hearing for 41 Water Street back to order. Again, we do not have a final peer review on that. It is being worked on currently. So once that's complete, we can move forward on that. And I've spoken to the engineering firm, and they are currently working on their notice of intent application in response to the enforcement order that was given to that property. So that being said, when's our next meeting, Victoria? April 5th. Is that election day? Yes, it's election day.
Does that mean
That means we shouldn't have a meeting on April 5th.
I didn't know that.
That's okay. Have we got any public hearings scheduled for the 5th already?
32 Middleborough Road is going to be on the 5th.
Okay, we're going to have to do something about that. What's the next one after that? 5 plus 7 equals 12?
Oh, the week after?
Yeah.
Yeah, 12.
That's April 12th. So we can't meet the 29th? No, that's next week. No, so April 12th. Is that Chris and Charlie, are you available April 12th?
I am.
Okay.
I should be.
Excellent, thank you. All right, hate to do this, but we should not, and I don't even know if we can, but I certainly know we shouldn't have a meeting on election night. We fall victim to this every once in a while, being on our Monday and or Tuesday planning board and Concom meetings. So we'll just go to the following week. So I'll entertain a motion that we continue the public hearing for 41 Water Street to April 12th, 5 o'clock via Zoom.
So moved.
I'll support that motion.
Thank you. Motion made support to continue the public hearing. If there's no further discussion, roll call vote, Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Demaris, aye. Passes unanimously. Okay, now that we got that out of the way. Number one on our agenda tonight, we have a request for certificate of compliance for 0 Bullock Road. The applicant is Peter Hawes, and it's the Acushnet Sawmill property. This is the solar array that was installed just behind Algonquin, for those that are interested in this. And do we have somebody here to represent that application?
Yes, you've got Rich Rion from Prime Engineering.
Hi, Rich. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. How are yourself?
Good. I'm doing fine, Rich. Hey, sorry we had to put you off. We had a situation. We couldn't get out there to do an inspection. So the good news is I got out there today and was able to do one. And you're looking for, we'd already given you a partial, and that was because there were a couple of outstanding items, I think, in and around some of the detention ponds. It looked like that had been taken care of. It is early in the season, but I could see some better growth, and it appeared that there were wood chips that were there to stabilize. I guess all in all, we've had some rain and some melting recently, and there were no runoff situations, nothing getting out there. And additionally, there were berms, natural berms that you'd put with wood chips to further protect. So that being said, and unless anybody has any other comments or questions about that, I'd entertain a motion that we issue a complete certificate of compliance.
I'll make the
that
motion.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and supported. If there's no further discussion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Demaris, aye. Passes unanimous.
Great, thank you.
Rich. Oh, Rich, that was a lot of heavy lifting there for you, kid. Have a great night, Rich. Good to talk to you. Be safe, my friend.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, folks, now we're starting to get into some of the filings that will have plans associated with them. So I will tell you, if you're interested in looking at the plans and following along what we're talking about, you can go to the Town of Freetown's website, and you'll see a heading. It says Boards and Committees. You'll scroll down to Conservation Commission. You'll click on that. And then on the left-hand column, you'll see the fourth one down, I believe it says Conservation Commission Current Filings. If you click on that, it will bring you to a page where we've got all of our current filings, supporting documentation, applications, peer review. It's all there so that folks at home can follow along with us. If you are calling by phone, I can't help you much there other than you'd have to go through a smartphone, through a website, and look at them that way. So that being said, we will move on to number 2. It's a request for determination of applicability for 15 North Hillside Street in Assonet. And I'm unsure if anybody is here for the representation for this, but when I did an inspection, I met out with the applicant, and the crux of the project is, if you scroll down, you'll see an aerial shot, and you can barely see the wetland delineation in the bottom left-hand corner, but all in all, he's got an RV sitting on a driveway. The driveway has started to wash out in the back, and he's looking to put some concrete blocks there. He's approximately 85 to 90 feet away from the wetland, and there's actually a smaller shed between the wetlands and where he wants to put the concrete blocks. He's proposed to put and offered to put some siltation control if necessary. But if not, the problem is it's washing away, and he's going to end up losing his RV. He's going to end up running into his. So So, that's the crux of it all. Again, most people would do that and not even call us and file. So at the end of the day, I'm thankful that he's done that and he's doing it the right way. And unless anybody has any question, he's using prefab concrete blocks, he wrote, on grade to prevent erosion from the RV parking area. If anybody has any issues or questions. Is Dan here? No? All right. If not, then I'll entertain a motion that we issue a negative determination, number 3, that the area is in a buffer zone to an area that's subject to protection of the act, but will not dredge, alter, or fill that area.
Make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Motion made, supported. If there's no further discussion, hearing none, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye.
Aye.
Chris Mather. Chris is aye. And Kevin Damaris, aye. Okay. Next, number 3, we have a continued notice of intent. This is for 12 Forge Road. And again, folks, you can find these plans on our website. This is a continuation of a public hearing, so I will call that public hearing back to order. This is for an application for a solar or ground-mounted solar array at 12 Forge Road in Nasonet. I believe we have a couple of representatives here, correct?
Yes.
All right. And so, last we left, who's here for that? Chris Young and who else?
Ryan,
Is it Chris and Ryan Young? Did I say that right? Or is it Ryan Young and Chris or something?
Chris King.
Chris King and Ryan Young. I'll get it by the end of this. I'll get it, guys. Last we left, we were ready to approve, and by consensus, the only outstanding item we needed was the wording for the requested condition of approval. And so we've received that, and it's been forwarded to everybody on the board. And I've read it. If you briefly would like, any one of you two folks, if you would like to just briefly go over that and just tell us what it says.
Sure. Good evening. This is Chris King with Atlantic Design Engineers.
Hey, Chris.
How are you tonight?
Good day.
Succinctly stated, Mr. Chair, the condition of approval is written such that the previous information submitted, basically to meet the recharge requirement, we were claiming the recharge volume in the stormwater basin due to the results of the test pits and the elevation of groundwater. Separation was questionable in that location. And so based on test pit information and other areas of the site, we do have opportunity throughout. It's a big site. There are other opportunities. More than likely, it will be infiltration trench located just down gradient of the equipment pads. And so understanding we don't have test pit information exactly at each and every one of these locations, we've drafted a condition of approval that would basically provide for, at the applicant's expense, the town's reviewing engineer would be notified 72 hours in advance of the installation or construction of these, at which point in time we would have the holes open, for lack of a better description. The reviewing engineer could come in and take a look and confirm that we are providing the required 2 feet of separation and that the soils are suitable, and allow us to proceed and field locate the trenches, and then do some in situ confirmation as far as the groundwater elevation and soil types.
That sounds about right. From what our conversation was last time, you know, and basically what to boil it down, you're assuming some data, and you proposed an initial treatment and or management, and you're saying that if in fact we go to do that, you'll call for an inspection, and if it doesn't meet a minimum standard, you will provide additional infiltration and stormwater management and again, that needs to be reviewed and approved by EPG. Is that the crux
Sure.
of it? Okay,
Correct.
okay. Is there anybody here from the public that has any questions or comments about 12 Forge Road?
Adam Cole.
Adam Crand, you're here.
Yes, Adam Kramer,
Okay.
Environmental Partners.
Hi, Adam.
Hey.
Did we send that to him?
Yes.
Yeah, you had a chance to read that, Adam, and,
I did. It generally makes sense. It's the actual language of the condition doesn't say anything about like what would happen if it doesn't pass inspection, but based on this conversation, it's pretty clear that they would be taking a look at what they could in the field and wouldn't open up a hole that didn't look good, essentially.
yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think, what they would have to do then is do whatever you tell them to do at that point in time. You know, if it doesn't meet the standard or whatever, I think they've agreed that in consult with you that, a reasonable accommodation and solution would need to be met, and you would need to be satisfied at that time.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. I just didn't, it wasn't in the specific, like, 2 sentences or whatever they provided.
Okay.
We're certainly amenable to adding a sentence at the end, just to say that, based on the observations in the field, the final design to be reviewed and approved by the town's engineer to ensure we're meeting the requirements of Standard 3.
That works.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. So clearly, that will be added to that wording. I'm just trying to find it right now. Here we go. It's required to demonstrate the reason. Okay, yep, perfect. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, if not, then, we have not closed the public hearing yet. So I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. No further discussion. Roll call. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris says aye. Kevin Damaris. Kevin says aye. Okay, so again, not to belabor the point, but we're at the point now where this was the only outstanding item, and I think we were comfortable to move on once we had received it in writing. And we are going to add that caveat at the end that to the wording, to Mr. King's wording and Adam's wording, that they need to be satisfied at the time should their initial efforts not meet the standard. So I will entertain a motion. And what's the most recent revised or revision date on the plans? I'm trying to find them now. Revised plans, here we go. I just want to be clear because I like to approve them by date. So there's no revision date. Come here. Where are you? Revised February 25th, right? That's the last revision date we have for you?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion that we approve the plans, revised plan set dated February 25th, 2021, with the aforementioned condition, and I'm not going to state it specifically, but as provided in the narrative by the applicant, with the additional language that EPG must be satisfied that their solution meets the stormwater number 3 standard.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
And I will provide full and unconditional support of Mr. Sullivan's motion.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion on the motion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. It's unanimous, gentlemen. Thank you. I know it was a little bit of an arduous uphill battle, but it's a kind of a unique site that had some difficulties, I think. At the end of the day, our hope and our desire is to always come up with the best plan and best oversight that we can. So thank you again, and I guess I'll be talking to you soon on another matter, right, in another forum.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you. We'll get those signed, and then, we'll start the process of, the appeal period and all that. So just, Victoria will be in contact with you over the next couple of days.
All right, great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too now. Okay, next on our agenda, we have a notice of intent filed for a 0 rear Simmons Road in the Sonnet. This is for owner Gerald Perrant and Ledgeview Development Company, Inc. Applicant is Erica Buster / Sun Connect, from Sun Connect, excuse me, Stephen Gioso from SciTech. And again, this is a large-scale solar project. So this being a brand-new public hearing, I will call the public hearing to order, and I will entertain a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
I'll make the motion to waive that.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Motion made and supported. No further discussion. Roll call. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin says aye. Okay, folks, what that basically is, it's the public hearing notice, official long page that basically says all what I've said, but also gives the date, time, we're all here, so you must have known about it. Again, just a polite reminder, this is how it works. The applicant's going to be able to make their presentation. You can follow along with the, on our website if you'd like. Then we'll open it up for comments and questions. Just so folks know, typically with these types and sizes of projects, we send those out for peer review, which means we send them out to an engineer that the town has contracted, but the applicant actually pays for, and they work on behalf of the town to look after our interests, particularly in this case with the Wetlands Protection Act. And I will also provide, and their company is Environmental Partners Group, and we do have Adam from there. I will also politely remind folks that while I know these things tend to raise a lot of interest, this is the Conservation Commission. The only thing that we are allowed to look at and or consider are items that would have an impact on the wetlands or items that are controlled by the Wetlands Protection Act. So any other kind of items relative to what it's going to look like and all, that's a planning board matter, and I'm sure that planning board will be holding a public hearing on that. So that being said, do we have somebody here? Is Steve here? John Connell's here. Okay, John, all right. So again, if I call on you, if you would be so kind as, and you're speaking, just state your name for the record and who you represent, and we'll go from there, okay? And do us a favor too, John, for those of us that are following on the website, if you're going to a sheet or a plan sheet number, if you could just tell us which one it is, it makes it easier for us to follow.
Okay, I'm not allowed to share the screen.
You can do a screen share. I'm just saying that there may be some of us, mainly me, who is trying to operate 3 different electronic devices at this point in time, and I can barely do one, John. So
sure.
if you're going to turn the page, just say, yeah, we're going to sheet 2, and I'll be fine.
That'll be great. Sure.
You can screen.
Again, my name's John Connell. I work for SciTech Engineering. Here on behalf of Sun Connect for the Simmons Street project, solar project. If I'm allowed to share the screen.
Yeah, she's giving you the permission there, John. So go right ahead, buddy.
Okay. I see Gurney on there, and
I'm sorry, huh? What's going on, John?
I'm trying to. Oh, okay. I got it.
All right.
I'm not really great at sharing the screen here. Hold on one sec.
Okay.
Okay, there I am. I've got the Simmons Street solar plan set open. Looking at the cover sheet here. It shows which is the locust map, shows the site that we're working on. It's it's actually two smaller parcels at the end or the northerly end of Simmons Street. Wooded site now. To the west is Route 24. I will go to sheet number 2 of 7, which is the existing conditions sheet. You can see the parcel perimeter on that sheet. You can see where the end of Simmons Street or the paved portion of Simmons is currently right now. Does that little hand show up there?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the end of the way here, Simmons Street. You can see that that currently there's a cart path that does come into the project right now to access the parcel. To the north there, you can see a wetland area, wetland flags, A-series flags that come down and wrap around here. You have another smaller isolated C-series of flags to the south at the entrance. And then the remainder is this larger B-series of flags that you can kind of trace here, kind of tracing it with the hand there. The two upland portions where we're proposing panels is right in here, further to the west, and then in here, this would be another proposed area of panels here. The site itself is about 28 acres. It's about 4.5 acres of panels that we're proposing. I'll go on to sheet number 3 of 7. You can see here what we've proposed is to come off the end of Simmons Street with a gravel drive, widen the existing drive or the existing cart path there to provide safety access, construction and safety access. The fire department typically wants, anywhere from 16, 18, sometimes 20 feet. We're showing 16 feet here to keep it to an absolute minimum as we work our way through the wetland. We do have alterations, and I'll summarize those in a minute. But we do have this wetland crossing here. We're using block retaining walls to keep those impacts to an absolute minimum. And here is our overall replication area, 3,750 square feet. We got 3,100 total here, 400 in this area, and then 250 right at the immediate entrance. As you get onto the site, you'll see we do have, you can see the gravel access drive accessing both areas. You can also see the perimeter fence. It's a 7-foot chain link fence for safety. I'll move on to sheet number 4 of 7, which is the grading plan. You can see on the grading plan at the beginning, because we are increasing the runoff on the site, we're subject to the stormwater management policy anyway, but we have to attenuate some of this water that we've generated, particularly due to the gravel drive. We are going from woods to lawn, but that's not the primary driver of the increase in runoff. So you can see that we built up some berms here basically to trap some of that water and then to meter it out slowly. We have a smaller basin in this vicinity here. So that's the extent of what we'd have to do to attenuate and meet the stormwater management policy requirements. As you mentioned, we're submitting with the planning board as well. So this, it's as I understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but both the planning board and conservation commission typically share a consultant.
Yeah, John. Not to cut you off, John, but yeah. So typically, when there's concurrent filings, we do a concurrent peer review, and so on the conservation side of things, it's going to look at the stormwater management and the policy. It's going to look at your adherence to the actual Wetlands Protection Act. Typically, it'll look at things like your replication plan and detail, again, stormwater management, and the like. Then planning board will also have a bite at the apple through stormwater, but they don't really get into, our end of that, plus all the other things. So, yeah, we will, and we're at the point now where we need to, send it off for peer review. But we usually afford the applicant an opportunity to make some sort of presentation, and then we can do that. So that's a good general overall.
Yeah. And I show the erosion controls. I mean, just to breeze through the last 3 sheets will only take a minute, but you can see the DACA line here represents the erosion control measures surrounding the site, limits of work. We have an erosion control plan detailing construction entrance and some of the notes, the general notes that the operations of the maintenance and of the stormwater management system, erosion control, slope protections, construction sequence, et cetera. And then just the site details of the last 2 sheets. So that I think is an overview of what we're proposing, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have if I can.
Sure. So typically I like to open this up to the general public first. They usually are anxious if there are somebody here or are people here interested. So if there is anybody interested, you can politely get my attention and feel free to state your name for the record and ask your question. Victoria, our clerk, do you see anybody waving or
No.
hollering or no? Okay. Well, then I'll start asking questions. So pretty tight spot over there. I'm just wondering if you couldn't give me an idea of what your limit of work relative to the offset, the buffer zone, right, to the wetlands. Short of me pulling out a ruler, it wouldn't do me any good because I'm looking at it at a computer monitor, so scale would be off anyway. I'm guessing you're only leaving about 25 foot.
It's I can scale.
In some areas, well, I'm just looking at some areas 25, other areas you're right up against it, and I can tell you that you might want to, and this has been done on other projects where they try to rearrange their solar arrays so that they can at least keep that 25 foot of, what we like to see too is minimal cutting and clearing, and we are all cognizant of the fact that shade is not a good thing to solar. But what we oftentimes like to see is, and I forget the name now, but it's the process by which you would top the tree and leave, 10 to 15 to 20 feet, depending on where, upstanding tree, so that it provides still a bit of an environment. We also don't like to see that area completely grubbed and loamed and seeded and all, right? So we like the natural underbrush to be kept there. So I guess what I'm saying is just a general comment would be to see if you couldn't find a way to pull back the limit of work and fence line so that you can try to manage, and because I'm going to give you credit, you've got 25 in quite a few places, but there's also other places where you're kind of up against it, I think. Not many though, not many.
Okay.
There might just be a little one there, and maybe at some of the crossings where you're going to probably be kind of limited by filling in. But it's a general comment, right? I'm not saying so. Additionally,
try to maintain the 25-foot buffer wherever humanly possible.
Yeah, right. At least a 25-foot buffer from the wetland where humanly possible. I like the fact that in some cases you're 25 feet off of the actual tree line, and that's great. And so in those areas that you're not, necessarily within that 25 feet off, even 50 feet of the buffer zone, we we ask that you provide a detail or something that shows that in fact we're just going to top the trees. We're going to leave them so that again, some of them will grow up. Well, not grow up, but some of them may in fact stay alive for a while and keep their root system in there, and then they'll slowly decay over time. It gives other critters, whether they be birds or insects or other mammals, a place to live. So we like to do that and see that. I know additionally and I haven't gotten into the details yet, and we like to start to see, pollinator blends, so a seed mixture that is attractive to the pollinators, so that we can keep those natural pollinators out there going. Bees are having a tough go of it, and I can tell you it's important to have them out there. As somebody who has a garden, right, Charlie? We need those pollinators. Otherwise, you just get a bunch of flowers on your zucchini, but you don't get any fruit.
That would be true.
That's it. So, so if you could look into something, if you haven't already called that out in a detail, maybe you can look at something like that too. And then lastly, just again, John, in fairness, this is the first time that we're all getting a chance to really look at this plan in detail. You're calling for a 1-to-1 replication area, and I just want to make sure that that meets the minimum standard. Typically, and oftentimes we get in a 1.5-to-1 and sometimes 2-to-1. Now I'm not, and Adam will certainly look into that, but with wetland replication, success is to be considered. I think if you have over 80% success over 3 years, and I like to say that if we can get a little bit more replication, their success is better for us. And
what do you typically like to see?
Well, we get a lot of 1.5-to-1. Adam, do you remember off the top of your head what the minimum requirement is?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's...
Yeah, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that, Adam. But that's why you have your wetland specialist get on that case there. But we'd like to see, maybe 1.5, consider 1.5. I don't know if you can fit it in there. And again, what that does is it ensures that should there be a slight failure of that, that even with that 20% failure, if you will, that could be inherent in a replication, that you're still above the 1-to-1 ratio, right, the threshold.
Yep.
Additionally, and it may again be on the details, and I'm sorry, oftentimes we like to see it prescribed in the detail when you're doing the replication, that what you would do is you would excavate the area to be replicated in, then you would remove the muck and material and the natural wetland material that you are going to be filling in or proposing to fill in, and then using that as a bit of a starter course and or a complete fill-in of your replication area, and we found that works the best. You got all everything's on point there, pHs in the soils and everything, all the soils are the same. You're not trying to bring in pre-mixed organic material that's from someplace else. You've got it here. It's got all the natural tubers and the roots and everything already in it. So we find that the success rate with using the on-site material is better. And you also diminish the risk of bringing in invasive species. So, maybe if you haven't already, you can lay that out in a narrative or on a plan set or a sheet, however you see fit, John.
Yeah, that's typical. We've
Okay.
got some notes to that effect, but I can
Excellent.
I can shore up those notes too. That's typical to maintain the existing wetland soils, stockpile them on site, and then supplement them as needed.
Yeah, it's just and sometimes you can't work it out that same day. But again, excavate the area to be replicated in. Go and take out the wetland, put it right over there, and then you can start doing your fill-in area. And again, finding that it's key that it's not a situation where you take that and you actually stockpile the wetland material and leave it there for a while. It's
Yep.
in my experience, limited as it is, if it's done right away and gets it back on the ground and keeps it wet, then you'll have better success. So
Add that to the sequence then, the
There
sequence
you go.
of construction.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
and again,
Kevin,
not to get too, but yes, who's that?
It's Chris.
Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Should I wait till you finish though? I don't want to,
No, please, I was just getting ready to, and again, assuming that you're successful in getting the permit, I don't want to give anybody the idea that it's just a rubber stamp here. But yes,
Right.
we're all talking with this, about the assumption, with the assumption that there's a successful permit application. So yes, please, Chris, go ahead.
as it relates to the stormwater management component of this project, I'm presuming that there will be an order of conditions and it would be recorded with the deed of the property that outlines the maintenance. So that was the first half of my question. The second half is who is ultimately responsible to make sure this maintenance happens? In other words, if it doesn't happen, who do we end up paying? Who's going to pay for that? I just want to address that issue right up front. Should it not be done, or should it not be maintained, or is there even an order of conditions first, I guess is the first half of the question.
Well, yes, to answer your question, right, Chris, and you're right, because this is a notice of intent, there will be an order of conditions, right? And typically, although the registry is wanting folks in boards and committees and towns to cut back on what exactly they require to be recorded, I am not shy about requiring anything to be recorded, okay? If it was good enough for our forefathers 100 years ago, and it's good. It's a good place to get information. So to your point, yes, if there's an O&M plan that needs to be in place, and you'd like that part of the conditions of approval, if you will, which would be the order of conditions.
Yes.
Within that, you'd have conditions of approval, and this would be the O&M plan. Then yes, that would absolutely be a recordable instrument, I believe, or we can require it to be recorded. I do not want to answer for the applicant relative to ultimately who is going to be responsible for it, but I will speak in generalities, not to speak for John. But ultimately, typically it's a private party that's contracted by the solar owners. So that's typically how it's done. But John, if you would like to speak to that, I think it's more not necessarily who, like it's not Joe's Landscaping. It's just how do we hold them accountable, and so we can either put it in a condition that, it's a great idea, Chris, that the area be subject to annual inspections or biannual inspections to ensure, by Conservation Commission personnel. Or commissioners or any of their designees to ensure compliance with that. And you know what? We haven't done that too much on the Concom side. It has been done to a certain degree on the planning board side, and stormwater would be a component of that. But I think if it gives you a level of comfort, and again, should they be successful with this, that I would have no problem if we put that as a condition that going forward, these types of projects be subjected to a annual or biannual inspection to ensure that the maintenance is being done in accordance with the order conditions.
Sure, and I'd like to just explain to John that where I'm going with this and my motivation behind this is very specific. If, in fact, the stormwater management isn't properly maintained, I don't want to see the financial burden and the responsibility on the taxpayers and on the abutters that may or may not be in close proximity to what needs to be dealt with. As you know, stormwater runoff is a big problem, and it has been, but as time goes on, we're coming up with more ways to deal with it and reroute it, and also self-infiltrate it into the property so it doesn't run off and contaminate wetlands in this case, because we're basically right there. We're in such close proximity. I think it's significant enough to address this issue now, and that's my motive behind it. So hopefully you can embrace that with your design and your planning. Hopefully that helps you embrace where my mindset is on this.
Sure, yeah. It's we've got our operation and maintenance plan here. It's also included in the stormwater report. I can't say I've ever seen anyone record it, but I've always understood it that it's part of our approval, and our approval if we haven't conformed to the conditions of our approval, which the long-term operation and maintenance plan is, then we'd be in violation of that order. So I think that's how other towns, I think, have treated it. Although I think you're right. I don't think a lot of towns go out and take a look at this as much as they do, say, a replication area, to ensure that that takes hold. The O&M plan for stormwater, for something like this, is really collecting any sediment that might be built up, behind in this case, the berms that we've created there, or in a detention basin. But yeah, sure. I mean, I for an example, on other sites, we have catch basins and things that have to be routinely pumped every year. If anyone were to go out there and find those things failing, you'd be in violation of your original approval. So I've never seen anyone come out and check these things, because the owners have a vested interest to also maintain the infrastructure so that it doesn't fail, because a failure is far more expensive than just going out and pumping the catch basins. We don't have any on this project, but maintaining that area so it doesn't fill up, the embankments don't wash away, that's a far more costly fix. So that's how we've always tried to incorporate that, is to show maintenance pays for itself over time. A failure of some of the infrastructure is far more costly.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, John, were you speaking, Chris? Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say thank you for the explanation. I'm of the camp, and that certainly makes a lot of sense. And John, your organization has a great reputation in our town, and I know in other towns too. So that's acknowledged and recognized. But again, going back to that, I'm of the camp that if it's not recorded, what do we really have to fall back on and ensure that it in fact gets done? And you kind of answered that question with the failure component. So, we'll certainly talk about this as we go on through the process. And I am open-minded to considering that as well, as part of the committee. So we'll certainly consider that, but just understand that's my motive and that's where I was coming from. So I just wanted to provide clarity on that matter.
I appreciate it. I'll do a little more digging as well to see how, if anyone has had any issues in the office, how other people have dealt with them. Steve's had twice my experience with some of this stuff here, and I'd be curious to see if he's had any, long-term issues, O&M issues. So I'll have some of that info certainly for the next meeting.
Thank you. And Kevin, did you want to add to that supplement?
Yeah. So I would say this. I'm going to politely defend my compatriot on the board here, and it's not necessarily the engineer. Here's what we found that the experience is: engineer comes in representing the landowner or an interested solar company along with the landowner, gets the approval. That solar company then either does the project or sells it to another solar company, who then hires a general contractor who constructs it, and then after that it may in fact be sold to another solar company, who then will contract with an operations and grounds maintenance company. And so by the time it gets to that, I don't know if the folks that show up to go over there and weed whack and do all that, if they see some issues with storm, that might not be high on their list, because they got 10 more to do that afternoon. And so just like subdivisions, where we have the highway surveyor from time to time goes around in the course of doing his business, and the highway department, they check on catch basins, they check on detention ponds and all, that at the end of the day, whatever mitigation you are providing, right? And I will again go back to, in instances where you are providing for siltation control, oftentimes we found to be very successful here in town, that if you are grinding stumps and or if you are grinding some of the tree limbs and branches and all, use that as a natural berm. Again, you're not bringing in invasive species. It is very resilient to heavy runoff, and we have found that when placed, wider at the base, like a reasonable berm, that little to no siltation control issues at all. And a lot of the solar companies have found it successful. They find it cost saving to them. And again, you're not bringing in and trying to maintain thousands of feet of silt fence, which is subject to wind-blown limbs. But you're also not trying to bring in a bunch of hay or silt sock that may in fact have invasive species in it. So just again, some things to consider. So at the end of the day, we're going to be sending this off for peer review. Now, in fairness to you, is it something that you would like to make some of the suggested changes prior to us sending that in for peer review, or would you like us to start peer review right now?
What would be the time frame if I were to make, and certainly have to run this?
Well, it goes like this, right? I can tell you EPG has typically been very responsive within that 2-week time frame between our meetings. We don't have another meeting for 3 weeks now. One, do we have a check for peer review? And you may have supplied that to us through the planning board. I don't know.
Yes, we did.
Okay. I have been out of the office last week, and so was my staff. And he was not in today. So when I get to see him tomorrow, I will just make sure that that has been deposited. And if it has, then we can ask Adam up there at EPG to start that. And the fact of the matter is, the delineation is going to have to be confirmed. So that in and of itself, John, is going to take some time, right? We haven't. This is not a previously confirmed line that I remember. So typically we start with that. That's going on while the actual review is being done, the plan review being done by the engineers at EPG. So it's completely up to you. If you want, we can just tell them start working on getting the delineation approved, or reviewed. And whenever we get the revisions that you say you can make or you can look at, we'll send those right off to EPG and they can start with that. But typically, it's going to take typically these things take 2, 3, sometimes 4 meetings. If it's done in 2 meetings, it's a small project, and you're doing everything we asked plus. So this one here, it's going to be a couple months, John. That's typical.
If you would start the review, I think this, I would like to discuss it with the applicant.
Sure.
And then, certainly if I want to go through the layout again and see what impacts that'll make, and then determine that I think whether, okay, we've done everything we can, or if we can do more. And if we can do more, then I could make those plan revisions and get those in very quickly. But I think if you could have them start, confirm the check. I dropped that off with Nils, in the planning submission, and then I will go through this, and if you could start the confirmation of the line, and then again I'll go through this layout, with your input now, and I can see what you're looking for, and then I'll see how what we've submitted matches up, and then go through it with everyone, and if those changes, if we're going to make those changes, I can make those pretty quickly and get those in hopefully before they move into that peer review phase. They'll still be working on the wetland line.
Okay, that sounds fair. I think I was actually here before I left for vacation. You were dropping it off, I think. one afternoon, if I'm not mistaken.
Cutting it
So,
close. You
Yeah,
told me,
you-
yeah.
Yeah, you were cutting it close. I think it was like 3 minutes of 4 or something, and you showed up.
Yeah, but that was, it wasn't for the deadline, but I was running late.
No, John, I'm just giving you a hard time. No worries, my friend. All right.
That's-
So is there anybody here from the public that has any questions or comments on this? All right. The board members, right, I'm not speaking out of turn here, right? We're gonna want to have this delineation reviewed and approved, or at least commented on by EPG, and this reviewed for the stormwater and Erosion Control and Wetlands Protection Act, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, that being said, Adam, we'll fire this thing off to you. You still using Brooke?
Yep, I'll reach out to her, and I did confirm it's 1-to-1 is the state standard for wetlands.
I thought it was, but, I know that, like I said, in the past, we've oftentimes been offered 2-to-1. 1.5 seems to be that sweet spot. If you can't, and just like I said, if you can give us just a little bit more, so that if you do have any kind of failure, you're still above the threshold for what you impacted. So,
Okay.
thanks. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that being said, I will entertain a motion. We can continue it to April 12th, whether we get any kind of comment specifically on the delineation. By then, we should certainly have comment from EPG by then on some of it. So I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to April 12th, 5 o'clock via Zoom.
Motion so made.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion made, supported. If there's no further discussion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin DeMaris, aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. I see, I think, John, you're gonna be sticking around for another one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna take the next one. It's, item number 6. This is, notice of intent for 9 Marie's Way in East Freetown. Owner applicant is Jennifer Emerson. The representative is Niall Zager from Zenith Constructing Engineers. And the scope of work is the construction of a single-family home and private well. Again, folks, if you're just tuning in for this part of the program, you can go to the town's website, freetownma.gov, boards and committees, Conservation Commission. Click on that, and you'll see Conservation Commission current filings. On the left, click on that, and you'll find a PDF of the proposed plan. Do we have Mr. Zager or somebody from his office here?
Mr. Chairman, Niall Zager from Zenith.
Wow, the man, the myth, the legend is here. Okay, so this is a public hearing, so I will call it to order, and I will again ask for a waiving of the reading of the public hearing motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been supported. No further discussion. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. And Kevin says aye. Folks, again, if you're here for this project, just let the applicant make their presentation and then politely get my attention, and we'll allow you to ask some questions. Okay, Niles, go ahead, sir.
For the record, Niall Zager from Zenith Consulting Engineers. Before I get started, can I have permission to share my screen, please?
Yes, for a one-time fee. Okay, what's the locus on this?
Right, everyone can see that, I assume?
Yep.
Great. All right, so property's located at 9 Marie's Way. It's a vacant piece of property. It's about just over 6 acres in size, so it's a fairly large site, but a good portion of it is encumbered by wetland. So you can see the wetland here. It's designated by wetland flags 1 through up to 18 here. There is also a perennial stream, brook, I should say, that's tributary to a surface water supply that's designated here as well. So we have an associated 100-foot and 200-foot outer riparian zone to that brook, as well as a 100-foot buffer zone to the BVW that I mentioned. Basically what we're doing is we're looking to construct a 3-bedroom, single-family home. We've kept everything as far forward as possible. And basically the only work that we're proposing is small amount of work of the house itself is within the riparian zone. The septic system and most of the driveway is completely outside the buffer zone, as well as outside the riparian zone. There is a flood zone on the property as well. It was a zone A. We actually had a LOMA issued by FEMA that took the entire area in question out of it. And I believe that we've given that to the commission for their record.
So
that's all
you
that's
actually
going
were not to interrupt Niles, but you were actually successful. How long did that process take for us interested parties who would like to get that done on their own property?
It took about 2 months.
Okay.
So it wasn't that difficult. They've actually been a lot more responsive.
Oh, good.
As of late than they had been in the past, if you can imagine that.
Listen, I'm glad something's working. Good.
Yeah, I mean, a zone A is definitely a little trickier only because it's, there's no, as you know, there's no elevation associated with it. So
right.
They basically just I think they just kind of draft a line on a plan and you have to work with that. If your area is in it, then you've got to deal with it. Even though we were significantly higher in elevation than where the brook is. I mean, we're probably up about 10 to 12 feet above that brook, if not more. In some spots, we're over 15 feet in height.
Okay.
So, it's a significant, differential in elevation. So I think when we submitted it to FEMA and we gave them all the information, they were like, oh yeah, this definitely is not in it. There was areas on the, up north of the site that were not mapped in the zone A that were much lower in elevation. So it just goes to show you that there's no rhyme or reason sometimes of why these things are done the way they are. So, but neither here nor there, this area has been taken out. So we're not even before you as far as work in a flood zone. We're only here before you for work within the buffer zone and work within the riparian zone. It's a very small amount. We have, like I said, here's the 200-foot outer riparian zone here in the kind of light blue color. And you can see that probably about half the house in an area of grading, just in order to be able to get the back of the house and have a backyard is suitable for the backyard here. But the remainder of the utilities, the well, the septic system, almost all of the entire part of the driveway is outside that riparian zone. The perk tests were done. It was all sands and gravels for the most part, loamy sands and gravels with very good perk rates that was witnessed by the Board of Health. So what you see before you is something that, has been passed and witnessed by the Board of Health. So that's really about it. There is, as I said, there is a private well that's going to be proposed here that meets all the setbacks to all the other septic systems in the area. That's really about it. Other than that, there's no other resources. There's no natural heritage, endangered species. There's no ORWs, ACECs. So I think that's really about it. Be happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
Okay, thank you for that presentation, Niles. Anybody here from the general public that has any questions or comments on this project? Okay. You may or may not know what I'm going to say right now, but how are we treating the downspouts?
We're not. We can. Typically, I mean, we're about 80 feet from, I'm sorry, 70 feet from the wetlands. So,
I see that. Yeah, I see that. I'm sorry, I see that, Niles. No, don't. My mistake. I was looking at that red line. Boy, I need to change my prescription. No, that's on me. Other question I have, and we've certainly required it with bigger projects. The alternatives analysis. It's been my experience, Niles, that in cases of riverfront area, if we don't at least get something from the applicant relative to an alternatives analysis, that we've had a few of them superseding order conditions from the DEP. So I'm wondering if that's not something that you could provide to us.
Oh, absolutely. If I haven't already, then I absolutely will.
Well, I didn't see it in the filing, and so maybe I'm just missing it, Niles.
No, yeah, I may not have. Let me.
No.
It's something I can definitely provide to you.
And we can get that maybe at the next meeting, so we can move forward with this then.
Yes, sir.
In the meantime, who did your delineation? Steve Schmiel?
Yes, Steve Schmiel from Hydric Solutions.
All right. So I'm going to be in that area on Friday anyway, around noontime. So maybe I can swing in there and also take a look at the delineation. You know, we have confidence in you and your folks, but I oftentimes say this: the applicant has paid to have somebody go out there and tie the flags on. The least we could do is go out there and look at the flags.
Oh, so, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So that would be my only initial comment. I see you've got, is that proposed silt sock, that's at the 25-foot buffer. And again, you're trying to get them the most bang for their buck. I get that. So if that's what they're adamant about, we can work with that. If it could be cheated a little bit, then we'll work with that too.
Yeah, we would have been able to actually shrink this down a little bit. I mean, if we did a wall or something, we could, but what's happening is they wanted a walkout, and in order to get the walkout in the back here, we have, as you can see, there's a knoll here. So that's what's pushing this back further into the 25, near the 25-foot buffer. Otherwise, I probably would have been able to keep it about 50 feet away. So and I can look at that. I can talk to my client about it if that's an issue, but I think holding the 25 foot's been kind of a practice by the commission in general.
It has been, and it's and to be fair, I think oftentimes we can be a bit I don't want to use the word generous, but accommodating, right? We appreciate the fact that this is somebody's property, and they would just like to use it and be in harmony with the wetlands. So it's our job to make that harmony work, and so 25 foot. If we go to 25 foot. Usually there's a requirement that posts are installed with the placards that we would provide to the applicant free of charge. That basically denotes any work or activity beyond this would be subject to a new and or different permit through the Conservation Commission, and you don't have that suburban creep. And I don't mean the guy down the street. I mean, what happens is people like me from the city move in here, and this is great, and then we just keep moving closer and closer and closer to the wetlands because we don't know any different. And so I think at the end of the day, if we're going to be encroaching in the buffer zone to the 25-foot offset, that we'd at least like to see a condition where we can put a couple of post and rail fence at certain times. When it gets closer than that, if need be. But if you would like to maybe discuss a little bit with your client, in the meantime, I can go look at the delineation, and then you can confirm the alternatives analysis.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Kevin, I'd like to add one item.
Absolutely, please.
Niles, this is Chris Mather. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Just as I look at the plan, the well contractor, have they been hired yet?
I'm sorry?
The well contractor where the proposed well is going to go?
They have not, no.
Okay. If I could make one suggestion, perhaps you could add a little footnote in, and Kevin, feel free to, supplement my words. Obviously, when they drill that well down, there's a lot of silts and stuff that come up and bubble over. And I'm just wondering if we could put a little extra row there of protection with maybe some hay bales or some extra silt sock just while the well's being drilled. And then a footnote just stating that when he does pump his well out and run it for a couple of days, that he runs the hose in a way that the end of the hose won't catch any silts from up in the high upland area here and run it off into the wetland.
Absolutely. So it basically from where the end of the silt sock is now, we can double that up for like say 30 feet or so down the slope just in order as an added protection.
Awesome. That's great. Kevin, does that sound good to
Yeah,
you?
no, it makes perfectly good sense. You know,
Okay.
it makes perfectly good sense. So, and, you know, appreciating the fact that it's probably a good 56, it's probably 65 feet away, somewhere in that range. But at the end of the day, when you look at the elevations, yes, it makes perfectly good sense. So, Niles, it looks like you're going to earn your check on this one. You're going to have to make a couple of revisions, you know, and make sure we have that alternatives analysis.
Not a problem, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anybody else, again, from the general public or from the board has a question, comment, or concern? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to April 12th, 5 p.m. via Zoom.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, John.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Motion made, supported. No further discussion. Hearing none. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Damaris says aye. So, thank you, Niles.
Thank you. Everyone have a great night.
You too, brother. Be safe. Number 7, we have a notice of intent. This is for 23 to 25 Gurney Road. This is in East Freetown. The owner is Doug Moeller, Stillwater Fasteners. The applicant is Erica Buster from Sun Connect. Representative, it says Steve Gioso, but John Connell is going to be here in his stead. And the scope of work is, again, a large-scale solar project. This being a brand-new notice of intent public hearing, I will call it to order. And again, entertain a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion made, supported. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Again, folks, you can follow along on our town's website. This would be the notice of intent for 23 to 25 Gurney Road. The plans are there. So, John, you know, an overview, just tell us what plan set you're looking at, or sheet, excuse me, you're looking at, and we can go from there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, my name's John Connell, once again, SciTech Engineering in Dartmouth, here on behalf of the Gurney Mola project. Can you see me? Am I missing something? Oh, there I am.
No, we can see you. If you want to do screen share, can you do it? She set it up so you can do screen share.
Gurney Mola plan set. It's a total of 7 sheets. Again, you can see this is located on the westerly side of Gurney Road, just south of the brook. This is, I'll go to sheet 2. This is the existing conditions plan here. The total site's about 30, little over 38 acres. See the parcel perimeter. Just tracing that there. To the east, there was some, I did receive a few calls wanting to know about, you know, who owned the land north. There's a town of Freetown. To the north is the town of Freetown, and then this New England Forestry Foundation. You can see the Fall Brook here, and then that goes on to Gurney Road. These are the existing buildings. We're not doing anything with that here. Our entire scope of work is behind the existing buildings in the large area to the west here. Sheet 3 of 8 shows our proposal. You'll see that our proposal is to connect all of these panels down at Gurney Road. We'd be working through the existing site. Currently, the access to the rear portion of the lot here is via an existing cart path that crosses this wetland area here. There's 2 culverts that pass whatever water does eventually on occasion get through there. We'd be widening that. This is a bigger installation. We had proposed 20 feet narrow, 20-foot gravel drive narrowing down to 18 feet. Much like the other proposed installation, we have the panels, we have the access drive. You have the 7-foot chain link fence around the site for safety, security. We have drainage improvements. There's a basin here, a smaller basin in this area here, and then an elongated basin to intercept that flow, which currently flows westerly, intercept that before it gets on to the adjacent property, attenuate it, and then the outfall is in that existing larger wetland area there at the northeast, the northwest corner. Sheet 4 of 8, again, is the erosion. These are detailed, these are the 40 scales of that. Just shows a little bit more detail, especially around what we're doing at the crossing here. The crossing exists, we'd be widening it, and we are proposing a 45 square foot wetland alteration here. It's on this side. And then we propose we are proposing a 50 foot square foot replication in kind there on that same area, same wetland resource area. That's one of the requirements of the state's, their alteration requirements, replication requirements, that we keep that hydraulically connected. So we've done that. We'd be extending the existing culverts so as not to make too much of a disturbance out there. And then we're proposing the concrete block retaining walls so we don't encroach any further into that area. We've kept that down to 45 square foot alteration, which is minimal. That's that. This is the continuation of the site in 40 scale. The northerly portion of the site gives you a little more detail on the detention basins. And then we go into erosion controls again, similar to the other project that we presented. You can see we propose a silt fence around here. Erosion control measures, goes through the parking area, the laydown area, typical things that we've submitted on these projects in the past that either the board has asked for or we find that it's necessary during construction to let everyone know this is what we expect. 7 of 8 is details. 8 in the 8, but sheet 7 of 7 rather that was 6 of 7. This is 7 of 7, shows a close-up of the wetland alteration and wetland replication area here with a little cross-section, the types of plants we're proposing, and then notes as to how that should be accomplished there, the replication. I think that is about covers it. If I'd be glad again to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, well, I'm going to again open it up to the public. If anybody from the public has a question, you can raise your hand, get our attention, or just politely get my attention. Okay, so thank you, John, for the presentation. Not to be too repetitive, but I think some of the things that you need to consider, obviously, is a much less vigorous on the need to fill in and replicate, right? So, I mean, would you say your total square footage of replication area was, what did you say it was now?
We had 50 square feet. We went from 45 square feet and we proposed a 50 square foot replication, okay. Which again, I always get torn between providing too much replication because those are trees we're losing too, and sometimes we've gone before towns and they say, just do the one-to-one because we don't want to lose.
No,
the-
right, and again, so with that in mind, John, and I'll back it up and say, and it sounds crass the way what I'm going to say, but no one is taking the applicant's arm and bending it and saying you have to do this project. So you're not wrong in that we wouldn't want you to wholesale cut down a bunch of trees just to replicate some wetland. I get that. But at the same time, could it be that you alter the project or don't do such a large or grand scale project where you could create wetlands in areas that may already be existing, disturbed, or the impact wouldn't be required to do that. So it's a give and take, and you're not wrong, but we're certainly not either. But there is a point of concern. It's a little above and beyond or outside of conservation relative to permitting this. But I will tell you, it's my understanding that there is an easement that is provided through this property to get to the Conservation Commission property and the town-owned property out back there. And if it is in fact on this property and it does exist where that existing Woods Road is shown on your plans, then that is going to be an issue. So again, I've only been told this anecdotally, John. I'm not making a statement, but I will say this. I believe that there is some form of easement on that property. And I think it's your obligation to point it out. While it doesn't have anything to do with the Wetlands Protection Act, it certainly has to do with accessing Conservation Commission-owned property, which would certainly be of a concern of ours. So if you could do me a favor and just ensure that I know I will fortify my information. I will be going to the assessor's office tomorrow to get the actual wording on that easement and see what it says and what it's supposed to provide for. So without being too repetitive again earlier, things you want to consider: the pollinator blends. You want to consider the topping of trees rather than wholesale cutting it down, leaving the undergrowth, particularly outside of the level of disturbance. And again, trying to minimize the overall impact of that. Consideration should be given to the use of natural berms for siltation control, if in fact you're going to be doing any grinding out there. And those types of things. This is, again, a significant project with a significant wetland delineation. So with any kind of luck, John, you can get your client and on both of these projects, we'll get a 2-for-1 if we can get Brooke to come out here and spend a couple of days at one time. Maybe we can get this thing going at the same time. So that might be helpful.
I'd be grateful for that.
Yeah, and I'm going to assume, John, that we've received the check from you with the planning board filing?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And regarding the 90, that 45, 50, we can add, we have no problem adding to the replication area. That's not a big deal.
I know that, and listen, anything under 100 feet, you don't even necessarily have to replicate. Right?
We like to do it. I mean,
I know, and we like to have you do it, John. I'm just saying that in some towns or instances, you're right. We all kind of differ, and I think our issue is this: that oftentimes we do find ourselves accommodating the property owners and respecting the property owners, but at the same time, we need to show respect for the wetlands. And so if we can get replication, if we can get a little bit more than with a 1-to-1, we'll do that. But by no means are we going to require you to start cutting down forests so that you can replicate, because we're trying to be greedy. So that's where you guys get paid the money to come up with an engineering plan that can address a lot of those concerns. Again, I think we're at the same spot. We can certainly send this out. There may or may not be some tweaks to this if you look at it. I'm just giving it a brief look. You do get, and I'll give you a for instance, right? If you look at the westerly, you're so good about the easterly side, about trying to stay at least 50 feet away from with the arrays and all. And then I look at that up there, and your limited disturbance in some areas is a bit closer. and it's with a detention basin. And so again, you know, could that whole array be minimized in size and shape to maybe keep a stronger or larger buffer zone to the detention basin? And could we find some things there? You've got a isolated land subject to flooding. You're making the statement that in fact it doesn't reach the minimum quarter-acre foot threshold to be considered a resource area. Again, just looking at this for the first time, I'm going to assume, John, that you have provided us with some information relative to that, so that can be further confirmed by EPG in the field.
Yeah, I'll check the submission there. And I can confirm that with Steve. I'll have to double check on that.
Okay.
Just
Yeah,
back
typically,
up.
right, we're going to be looking for calculations. You're going to give us area. You're going to get, you know, and additionally, we want to ensure that it's not acting as a vernal pool either. So if you can look at that and give it, now, I don't believe it's on the identified or potentially identifiable vernal pools. And there's a very rigorous testing to make sure it's a vernal pool. So if we could get some sort of narrative that because I think that when Brooke goes out there, or EPG more importantly goes out there and views this, they're going to be asking those same questions.
Yep.
So if we can get that information sooner rather than later, it's going to help EPG make the best decision. I see that we have somebody who wants to ask a question.
Yes, that's me, Kevin. I'm just on two connections here, one on the computer and one on my phone for the audio.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
Go ahead, Chris.
So I didn't want to interrupt, but I'm thinking outside the box with the replication concept. And has there ever been precedent established where we agree on a replication of whatever the number is, and then it's done at an alternate location, for example, in the forest, where some erosion control might need to happen and we can do something on the side? Or is it very limited to this is the impact area and replication must be in this area? Or could we put it somewhere else so that they don't have to cut down trees and the applicant doesn't get his economic revenue slashed up too much from the amount of panels? Because I understand more panels, more revenue. But I also want to protect the wetland and give conservation what they need in terms of replication and also meeting the state minimum. Does that ever happen?
Yeah. So to answer your question, you're absolutely correct, and that's what they've found. Off-site mitigation. There's a fancier terminology, and anybody smarter than me that wants to tell me what it is, feel free to. But the concept is just that. You get into a situation where just your site alone is not conducive to replicating, and it doesn't make sense. And to your point, what does that mean? Well, if you're on the edge of the Bolton Cedar Swamp, right? That's hundreds of acres, if you will, and you're impacting 1,000 square feet. But it would be better served to go to a smaller wetland off-site to do that. Yes. Now, there is a process to do that. And in this case, and those are typically done with much larger replication areas.
Okay.
But your point is dead on, Chris, that if they weren't able to demonstrate that they could replicate on their own property, then there is the process by which they could do that at another location. And even to the nth degree, in instances, the planning board rules and regulations would allow for increased density of houses if you do some off-site mitigation in a area of critical concern and things like that. So, but we're only dealing with the Wetlands Protection Act, and in this case, it's only approximately 50 square feet. But your concept is dead nuts on. You're
okay.
Absolutely right.
Just curious.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. Well, John, it looks like we're at the same spot, right, Adam and John here? Adam, we're going to send this up to you. You can start your initial conservation review, which would include stormwater, delineation, and that stuff. Hopefully by that time, we will begin the public hearings on the planning board side of things, and we'll give you better direction relative to the level of review we'd like, for site plan. But in the meantime, I think, again, let's work at the delineations, and let's look at the stormwater management plan and O&M plans if they provided it. Does that sound fair enough to you guys?
That makes sense to me.
Excellent. John, we go with that?
Sure, yeah, well, I'll, I appreciate the input. I'll discuss these issues, with Steve and the applicant
And John, not to cut you off, but if the applicant, if I need to be clearer with the applicant, to let them, know the concerns of the Conservation Commission, you folks have my phone number, my cell phone number. If not, you want to email me. I'd be more than happy to, spend a few minutes, just explaining, what the what's and the whys of what, why we're asking for that stuff.
I appreciate it. Yep.
Sure, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, then I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to April 12th, 5 o'clock via Zoom.
So moved.
I'll support that motion.
Thank you. Motion made and supported to continue April 12th. No further discussion on the motion. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Damaris. Kevin says aye. That takes care of the public hearings for tonight. So we just have some regular business to attend to. We have no old business. We have a response. I'm sorry, we do have old business. We don't have any new business. My apologies. So item number 8, old business updates. We have a response to the enforcement order for 218 Middleborough Road. We have been in contact. They have contracted, what is it, Thompson? Farland Corp., right? Yes. Victoria, yeah, formerly Thompson Farland. And we have been in contact with the engineers, and they are preparing the notice of intent for us at this time. So that is being done in response to our enforcement order. Other than that, we have to approve the meeting minutes from 3/3/21, and Victoria, you did send those out to everybody. If anybody is comfortable making a motion on those, and then after that, we could move on to motion to adjourn. So if anybody has a motion on the meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Appreciate that. Motion made, supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
I says aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris says aye, and Kevin Damaris. Aye. Kevin says aye. Any other business properly to come before the board or before the commission? Excuse me. Not to my knowledge. Just an update. I think I briefly gave you an update on 41 Water Street, the other enforcement action. They're currently working on that notice of intent in response, so that's getting taken care of. But other than that, we're starting to get closer to having normal agendas, and we're getting caught up on things, and it's only taken a year, so God bless us and keep us. All right. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion.
Second.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Motion made, supported. No further discussion. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris says aye, and Kevin Damaris. Aye. Kevin says aye. Folks, the meeting is adjourned and it is over. Be safe. Look for emails about the next meeting. There may be some either revised plans or some information that you might need. And if you need anything, let us know.
All righty. You take care, guys.
Thanks again. See you guys.
All righty.
Be well. Yeah, bye-bye.